say our goodbyes to my extended family, we make our way over to my aunt's house. And we're sitting at the kitchen table, we're laughing, we're crying, we're sharing memories, looking at pictures, and the phone rings. My mom's cell phone sitting next to me. And I look at it and I immediately feel a gut instinct that something's wrong. My heart goes to my stomach. It drops. And I grab the phone and I hand it over to my mom. And I can see the fear in her eyes. And I immediately cover my face. And right then and there, my brother, who was 26 years old at the time, I had just spoken to 2 days ago on the phone, took his life. And it was in that moment that my entire world changed. You know, I just talked to him 2 days on the phone and I said, I love you and I can't wait to go visit you and hop on a plane. It had been a year since I saw him in person. And I never expected to get that phone call. And to feel that pain from my head down to my toes, that physical pain, not just a mental pain, but a numbness. And in the upcoming hours and upcoming days of going to see my brother and hop on that plane, of course it was not a hello, but a goodbye. A goodbye I never expected to have to say. But I walked into that room and I fell to my knees. I never experienced anything like that where I physically could not walk. My legs went out from under me and I fell. And I started screaming and crying. And that's very unusual for me because if you have known, I am a very outgoing person. I love to speak and sing and dance, but I was speechless. I couldn't even say I love you, get out the words to say goodbye. I just screamed. And I thought then and there that that would be the hardest day. But I quickly realized that it's the days, the weeks, the years, the months that go by that are really the hardest. Because then you have to start living again, breathing again, and trying to just exist after a pain that you never expected. And what I did was I hid. I laid in my bed every single day for months. I quit my job. And I actually couldn't even sleep by myself. My mom slept with me every single night because I had flashbacks. I was replaying the events over and over and again. And I stopped eating. I lost 15 pounds really quickly. And it was much more than just a mental thing. It was a physical thing as well. The first time I ever left my mom to go to try to be, this young 23-year-old girl and hang out with her friends and hop on a bus to New York City, I had an anxiety attack on the bus. I sat there popping lavender pills, trying to think that that would help my anxiety because I had fear and this guilt that I was losing my mom. And at the same time, I was met by people seeing this happen, not understanding what they could do, being frustrated and that they couldn't help, saying that I was depressed and I needed to be on medication. And which, excuse my language, but I said, no shit. No shit, I'm upset and I'm depressed. But that's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be on any type of medicine. So I went to therapy. My first time in therapy was not a good one because the woman unfortunately spoke a lot more about herself rather than listened. And that made me lose a lot of hope. But I did eventually find a therapist that was great. But in the following months, in speaking with him, I began to heal a little bit more and talking and sharing, but again, that physical pain and feeling like I was going to throw up, my eyes burning all the time, it still existed. And several months later, my mom got the news that she was diagnosed with lupus, which is an autoimmune disease that attacks your organs, which includes kidneys specifically. And I was very fortunate that I got blessed with the opportunity to go perform in Europe, which was a dream come true for me. So I went to the doctor, as I normally would for my checkup. I talked about some pains that I've been having, and I then found out that I too was diagnosed with lupus. So I went from feeling like I was getting ahead of myself to taking 20 steps back, feeling like now I have no control over anything. My body is fighting against me, and I am just struggling to wake up, to eat, to live. But when I came back from Europe, I realized that performing on stage wasn't fulfilling me as much. And that's when it kind of all changed for me. Because what I did was I started to write. I started to realize that I had a lot to share. I had a voice and a story, and I couldn't be stuck in that pain anymore. and talking about it wasn't enough. I needed to move through it. So I used my love of music and dance, and I started to use that to heal myself, to just experience the hurt, the grief, the joy, the anger, the jealousy, all of those things that came up through music and movement. And I then decided, you know what, I want to help people. So I went ahead and I got my life coaching certification. It was a 6-month program. And I thought by doing that I could serve other people, and I didn't know in what capacity. But I soon realized that I couldn't help other people if I didn't help myself first. So in those months of studying, I began to change and transform myself, realizing that I had these boundaries I needed to set up for my family. Because what I also found out was when I went to a group program for suicide loss survivors, I was quickly realized that a woman looked at me and she said, you know, I feel bad for the kids, I feel bad for the siblings because they have 2 losses. The loss of their sibling, but also the loss of their parent. And I didn't realize what that meant until that very moment, and months and years now, as it's true. That I don't have the same relationship with my family. Now I'm an only child, forced to take on that weight, that pressure, and that heaviness. So I realized there was a big gap. I started to research, and I saw that there is nothing out there for specifically people who have lost a sibling to suicide. And there's actually a book that's recommended quite often with the title, The Forgotten Mourners. Because oftentimes people come to you and they say, how is your family? How is your mom, your dad? But they don't necessarily ask about you. And that hurt. I hid and I just smiled, pretending everything was okay. But really, I just wanted somebody that understood me and to recognize my pain, to mentor me and help me turn pain into purpose and actually start living again and sharing and experiencing. So that's when I started to share my messaging online. Not only about awareness about mental illness and suicide loss, but also just strength and vulnerability. Strength in what it means to be passionate about something and to share, not be afraid of sharing your truth as well. I did a challenge called the October Kindness Challenge where for the entire month of October we just expressed love for ourselves and kindness and grace and compassion towards ourselves. And in doing all of this, I continued to heal, and I realized in helping others, I can heal myself. And it reminds me of a time where one of the first experiences I left my house after losing my brother, my mom and I went together at the movie theater. And it was a really beautiful, true story, this movie. But I sat in the back of the theater and I bawled my eyes out again. Had a physical reaction, a panic attack, because that young boy's mom's prayers were answered in this film, and mine weren't. And I was really angry, really frustrated. And the people next to me asked if I was okay. And again, I couldn't say anything. My mom just held me and said, yeah, she's okay. But the woman in front of me realized I wasn't. And my mom whispered in her ear, and the woman looked at me and she said, me too, and held my hand. And it was in that moment that I realized I needed to be here in this position so I could also say, me too. And that's how this kind of all started and why I'm here, because we all have a story we need to share. And we all need to help each other in healing whatever that we are going through. So what I do is I work one-to-one with other people, specifically women who have lost a sibling to suicide loss. And even more so, specifically young girls who don't have a mentor because they're going through other things such as confidence, self-esteem, body issues. And through music and movement to help them heal and find that confidence again, but to also feel empowered by their story so that maybe they can share and that they can heal others. So what I ask from you and me being here is like, this is my starting point. This is my first time speaking in front of everybody, really getting out there and talking about this. And I'm just so excited for what's going to unfold. So I would love to connect with each and every one of you in any capacity. If you know of somebody that has been through suicide loss in some way, has been touched, or even young girls who are still struggling with that confidence and maybe need some sort of mentorship and somebody to talk to, I would love to connect with them. And even more so too is if you want to help other people, to stand up, be that support for people, you can always donate or sponsor somebody that you think really deserves that help. And what you see on the table, some of you may have gotten stickers, but it's just my way of realizing, and everything my brother taught me, my last conversation with him was about people being unkind to him, and how a lot of times people just need somebody to smile at them. They need somebody to just simply ask if they're okay. So to use that sticker, if you would like to keep it for yourself or to give it to somebody and really make their day, because you just really don't know who needs it. So thank you so much, and I really look forward to connecting with all of you. He said questions.
Does anybody have questions?
We can always chat after too.